Hello citizen. Be advised this content creator is human and is therefore subject to human error. Any information provided by this content creator should be cautiously approached as it may be nothing more than allegation. Remember, trust your government, consume appropriate content, and be cautious of all conspiracy theories as they are the tools of the rebellion.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the 21CD podcast. As always, I am your host, John, and if this is your first time here, welcome. If you guys want to support the podcast, and I definitely hope you do because I need all the support I can get, then you can head on over to 21cdstudios.com and you can buy some merch or click on some of the other links that you find there and just follow me everywhere. Right now we do have some propaganda flyers for sale in the store. They are pretty cool. They are not your typical poster. They are awesome. And for all of you guys wondering, all orders are currently fulfilled and on their way to you. If you guys want to donate to me, you can check out my Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. I've also got a tab for it on 21cdstudios.com. And that's what helps fund my projects. Our next big project is going to be in Iceland. And honestly, I'm super stoked. I'm leaving next week. We're going to go try to find some wildest folk, some hidden people in Iceland. And I'm going to document the journey. And I can't wait to share it with you guys. And your donations directly fund that. So all of you who have been donating to me, you guys are awesome and amazing. Thank you so much. I will never forget you. We're really excited to do this, so you guys rock on. You're the realest. My heart is very full right now, guys. I am tired, so I'm sorry if this episode feels a little different. I'm waging a war right now, but we are winning. I'm going to be in Tennessee in just a few days for my second interview on the confessionals. It's going to be an awesome interview. I will be talking about some very strange stuff that you didn't know about me, and you will want to hear it. For sure. And then from there, it's off to Iceland. So, incredible journeys ahead. But today, we are tired from the work. Okay, so we're going to be going over a little bit of a different topic today. We're going to head over to China and talk about yet another disappearance of an entire civilization, vanished without a trace. Imagine this civilization that flourished in ancient China, and it was so advanced and mysterious that it seemed to appear out of nowhere, and then it just simply vanished without a trace. Its people left behind no written records, no clear explanations for their sudden disappearance, but what they did leave behind are some of the most unusual and otherworldly artifacts that have ever been discovered, artifacts that have confounded archaeologists and stirred up some of the wildest theories imaginable. These bronze masks that they found with these exaggerated features are some of the most outlandish of the discoveries, and they have these massive eyes that stare out almost as if they're seeing something that we can't. They don't resemble any of the other artifacts found from the same time period. They seem alien, to be honest. So we're going to take a look at Sanxingdui, a lost civilization that has puzzled experts for decades. How did the people of Sanxingdui develop such advanced skills only to vanish overnight? And why do some believe that they might have had contact with beings from beyond our world? Was their disappearance related to a natural disaster or a secret society that from the shadows maybe they disappeared into the inner earth? Or was something more extraordinary at play, such as alien visitors or other dimensions? So, as we get ready to step into the world of Sanxingdui, let's first kind of set the stage. Around 1200 BCE, in what is now Sichuan province, an extraordinary civilization flourished along the banks of the Minjiang River. And this wasn't just another ancient Chinese culture, guys. This was something altogether different. The people of Sanxingdui, they weren't connected to the more familiar dynasties like the Shang or the Zhao. They seemed isolated and cut off from the rest of the ancient world, yet somehow much more advanced than their neighbors. The discovery of this lost world happened by accident in 1929 when a farmer stumbled upon a cache of jade relics while he was digging in a ditch. And little did he know that what he unearthed was a secret that had been buried for millennia. People didn't even know it existed. It wasn't until the 80s when two massive sacrificial pits were uncovered that the full scope of Sanxingdui's mystery began to really unfold. And remember those sacrificial pits for later, because we're going to bring them up multiple times. But they also found bronze masks, towering statues, these strange objects that serve some kind of unknown purpose. And they all just came out of the earth, completely out of place, as if just dropped there by some culture that shouldn't have existed at all. And things just get weirder and weirder. These artifacts, especially the masks, have a very distinctly alien feel. They don't feel like they were made by humans, and they have these, or that they picture humans. They've got these large almond-shaped eyes, these elongated faces, these unnatural proportions that make you think about other examples of such artifacts found throughout the world. Some researchers initially thought that maybe they represented like gods or spirits, but others with a more conspiratorial type lens, they see something else entirely. They see visitors, aliens, extraterrestrials not of this world. The artifacts from Sanxingdui are nothing short of breathtaking. Let's not get it twisted. And if you guys are listening to me on the podcast, I'll probably have some pictures of this on the YouTube. But there's intricate bronze work, and it's interwoven with gold and jade carvings, and they all create this idea that there must have been some kind of advanced understanding of metallurgy or craftsmanship about the people of Sanxingdui, because these relics that were found were just not, they weren't typical. But it's the bronze masks that really grab the most attention because they're massive, some standing over 6 feet tall. These masks don't really resemble the typical art found in any other place in ancient China either. In fact, nothing quite like them has been found anywhere else, and archaeologists are kind of puzzled by the purpose of them. They don't know if they were used in rituals, or if they're representations of ancient deities, or if they were something else entirely, just something we haven't discovered the name of yet. And this is where the theory of alien intervention really starts to take root, because some believe that these masks don't represent gods or spirits, but aliens, beings from another world. And the large elongated eyes, they're just features that are often associated with modern depictions of extraterrestrials. And that's one of the most particularly striking features of the alien, right? I mean, look at this guy back here. What's he got going on? Hey, buddy. It's not going to focus on him. It's too busy focusing on me. By the way, we are going to name him. I have a name picked out. I will reveal it in the next episode. If you guys are listening to me and you haven't met my newest addition, my new friend in the studio, you guys, I'll upload something to Instagram, okay? All right. Anyway. So they've got these large elongated eyes, something that you'll recognize on almost all depictions of aliens in modern times. And it's as if the people of Sanxingdui were actually trying to capture something that they had seen, something that didn't quite fit in with what they were seeing around them. So yeah, maybe the civilization did encounter some kind of alien visitor. Like, how else would they have known to make something like that? Why else would they have made something like that? That's what I always get back to, because we are saturated with this imagery. We think it's funny and just fun and just something that we just do at this point. Just like one of the first shapes that we learn to draw is like a star or a square or whatever. One of the first things we learn these days is what aliens look like, and they all look the sort of the same way. But back in ancient times, they might have actually been depicting what they were seeing. We're just not doing that anymore, right? If these beings were guiding their technological advances or sharing knowledge of metallurgy and craftsmanship, I don't think anybody would really be too surprised. The mystery deepens when you consider how, like, abruptly the civilization just vanished, because it's as if the people of Sanxingdui disappeared completely overnight, and they left behind no records, of course, no signs of any gradual decline, just their relics, all of their things from a culture that is now just completely gone. So what could it possibly be? You know, we're not the first to ask these questions. Over the years, of course, the idea of alien contact is growing more and more acceptable in the public eye, especially with all this UFO, all the what's it called, the declassification and all that. So, I mean, talking about aliens in relation to this topic isn't that really far of a fetch, in my opinion. It's not just those masks that fuel these ideas, and I'm not typically an alien kind of guy. It's not really the first thing I ever go to. I think that aliens are something different than we've been led to believe that they are, and so this contact from other worlds idea is something that I just don't really entertain that much. I'm usually more of a interdimensional type guy, and I believe that there might be dimensions all around us that we can't really see, and that's sort of where many of the secrets actually lie, not on some far off planet or some other worldly species. I think everything is kind of right around here, in some kind of spirit realm. And yeah, maybe the earth isn't round. Maybe it is an endless plane that just goes forever and ever, and we just really truly do have no concept on reality. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because it's a strange thing on this podcast to hear me talk about aliens, because I just don't talk about them that much. So before we go further into the extraterrestrial theory, I want to step back and consider a different possibility for a sec. What if the Sanxingdui were not recipients of any kind of alien knowledge at all, but they were actually a civilization with its own advanced understanding of the cosmos? They had learned things themselves through experiences. Some believe that the masks and the artifacts might actually be representations of celestial beings, such as creatures from these other realms of which I've been speaking. Perhaps not alien in the modern sense, but spiritual or, interdimensional in nature. Many cultures had advanced ideas about the stars and the planets and other dimensions, and they often saw those things as the keys to understanding the beyond. So some do believe that all these masks and artifacts are depicting something more interdimensional, more spiritual. And it's very likely that people from this time, including the Sanxingdui, just understood the world and understood how things worked a little bit better than we do. Now, the people we are now are not the same type of people that were back then. Back then, they were much more connected to the world. They had to be, and they were much more in tune with themselves. They were much more creative. Again, all of these things because they had to be. Nowadays, everything is just so shoved in our face, we barely have to make any decisions anymore beyond which color of whatever it is that we want. Which flavor, which color. Those are the hardest decisions we make on a day-to-day basis, right? So, but back then, it's important to understand these people were trying to figure stuff out actively. They were trying stuff all the time. They were doing things all the time. There wasn't time for them to waste. They had to survive, and they had to make their way. So, of course, they were figuring stuff out much quicker than we are now. But let's look at another theory, right? Maybe the people of Sanxingdui were actually attempting to communicate or summon some of these otherworldly beings, and their sudden disappearance could be tied to something relating to that. Maybe a ritual gone wrong or successful contact with these entities that led them to just vanish completely. Because among the many bronze and jade objects recovered, we do see these symbols and patterns that seem to have astronomical significance. I've talked about the spiral over and over, and I even have an entire episode dedicated to the cult of the spiral, which is a symbol of interdimensional travel, in my opinion. Some theorists suggest that these people of Sanxingdui were not just artisans. They knew stuff, and they were astronomers and maybe even cosmologists. And these masks might represent beings from the stars. Sure, they could also be gods. They could be their own depictions of the Anunnaki or the Nephilim or the Elohim. They could be guardians from the heavens. We don't really know. Angels or demons, right? There's even speculation that the alignment of certain objects suggests knowledge of constellations and planetary movements on behalf of the Sanxingdui that are far beyond what we would expect from some kind of isolated ancient culture. These people were advanced in their own way. So what if they weren't simply waiting for aliens or whatever, but they were actually actively trying to communicate with them? A lot of people think that that's what the pyramids all over the world were used for. There does seem to be this idea that people from the past were attempting to communicate with the sky in some way or some other realm, and they had, at various points in time, seemingly developed the tech to do so. So Sanxingdui could just be one more example of that. Maybe they're attempting to open some kind of gateway to the heavens or some portal to another world. Who knows? This isn't really as far-fetched as it sounds, because like we said, in many ancient civilizations, like the Maya, the Egyptians, they believed in the possibility of reaching these higher realms or contacting otherworldly entities through rituals or sacrifices, going through various motions. And the large bronze statues, some of which depict humans holding strange spherical objects, may have been symbolic representations of these attempts to basically cross these higher planes and traverse dimensions. Could these objects have been tools used in rituals to sort of connect with the stars or beings from beyond, some other dimension, whatever they thought was out there, right? But, of course, we know how this ends. They disappear. So did it work or not? Or maybe they opened a gateway, and they summoned some beings in who stepped into their dimension and it was an accident. It was deliberate. The people of Sanxingdui, if we listen to this theory, didn't just vanish. They actually crossed over into another realm and they left behind this physical world forever. There's a pretty eerie story about one specific artifact, and it's this strange bronze tree. And it was found there in Sanxingdui in the ruins. And the tree is adorned with these birds and dragons and what some see or interpret as like suns, like in the sky, or celestial bodies. And the thing stands nearly 14 feet tall, and it's an object unlike anything else from this period. It's completely unique. Some people think that this cosmic tree could represent a world tree, like Yggdrasil from Norse mythology. We see the tree a lot. We have the tree of life. Like the tree is a symbol And some believe that this could be just one of those symbols, and it signifies sort of a pathway between realms. It's like an ancient symbol, you know? A lot of cultures have the tree that reaches to the heavens or to other dimensions. So maybe this was Sanxingdui's tree, their world tree or their tree of life. And they were explaining how they bridged the gaps between worlds. But what about these sacrificial pits, right? Ones I told you to remember. Well, they contained thousands of objects, including ritual items, tools, and animal bones, many of which appear to have been burned. Some scholars believe that these were offerings to the gods, but others think that they might have been part of a much more elaborate, maybe dangerous ritual designed to open some kind of portal. Obviously, conspiracy theorists love this idea. Who knows? It's possible that the people of Sanxingdui didn't actually leave by choice, and what they did brought about their doom, whether they were punished or abducted or eaten. We see that in the case of the Anasazi people, another very advanced race from ancient times that just vanished without a trace, leaving behind charred remains. This notion of ancient civilizations disappearing as kind of a result of contact with supernatural or extraterrestrial forces, it's not unique to just one or two areas like Sanxingdui. Think about the Maya or Atlantis or any of these other vanished cultures, right? The disappearance of Sanxingdui it's just, I think that when you try to answer this, you have to look at all the other cultures that disappeared throughout time, across the world, because some of them disappeared in the same ways. And it's just an answer I don't think we have yet. I don't think we can find it yet. We haven't uncovered the correct evidence or the right data to answer what caused the disappearances, especially among some of these greater tribes and these greater civilizations that just disappeared without a trace. So whether they were in touch with extraterrestrial beings or conducting rituals to reach the heavens, like we see in the Tower of Babel and all that kind of stuff, we don't really know what these ancient people were capable of and what they actually believed was out there because of whatever they were seeing and feeling with their own eyes and their own bodies. But what if they did make contact with something? What happened? Where did they go, right? Because they obviously went somewhere. So if they didn't just dissipate into tribes because the civilization was just, it became too excessive and too heavy for the people to bear, and disease broke out and famine broke out because they weren't able to make enough food to feed the population, and as seasons passed, sickness came and starvation came, and eventually just people broke off into families and tribes and left behind the ruins of this great advanced city. If that didn't happen, because that is the most quote-unquote logical idea. That is what most people would explain to be what happened. But if that didn't happen, then they must have made contact with something. So where did they go? The area around Sichuan province, where the ruins of Sanxingdui lie, has become a modern hotspot for a lot of strange phenomena. UFO sightings are there all the time. There's unexplained lights in the sky and reports of mysterious objects that are hovering over the region. All this has surfaced over the past few decades, by the way. And it honestly continues to beg the answer to the question, could there be a connection between the advanced civilization of Sanxingdui and the UFO activity that we're still seeing today? Sichuan province has long been a focal point for UFO enthusiasts in China, with many witnesses describing seeing glowing orbs or strange aircraft, and especially unidentified lights that move in sort of an erratic pattern across the sky. Some witnesses claim these objects are completely silent, and others report hearing some kind of humming sound before the objects just completely vanish. And these sightings do spike in areas that are near the ancient Sanxingdui site. And that obviously leads people to believe that whatever might have influenced this civilization thousands of years ago, it could still be present. Or maybe it's come back Maybe it's an inherent power in the land, like a place where the veil really is thinner, where there isn't a dimensional bleed. But one famous sighting, particularly famous, took place in 2011 when residents of Chengdu, which is a major city not far from Sanxingdui, reported seeing a large, bright object in the sky. And it was nighttime. They described it as a glowing disc. And the object hovered over the city for several minutes before just shooting off at an impossible speed. And the incident drew tons of attention from the media, of course, and government officials came out, but there was no clear explanation for what happened because nobody knew what the heck it was. And for those who believe in the sort of extraterrestrial connection to Sanxingdui, this event was seen as another sign of whatever or whoever could be influencing ancient civilizations, especially if they come from the sky or outer space or whatever. And some people speculate that the site itself might actually be the reason for the activity, not necessarily the people, but the spot itself. It could be an ancient beacon or some kind of stargate, like an energetic portal through which beings from other worlds or dimensions can travel, like the Bermuda Triangle or the Black Pyramid in Alaska or any of these other locations that we see all over the world. The Superstition Mountains. This theory draws on the unusual geographic idea or geological idea. We don't really know. It could be something related to the land in the area. And that's an interesting theory too. Like if you are in a certain place in the world, do the elements in the world, the different types of rock and crystal or whatever's there, whatever could cause energy in the ground and all around you, does that impact how fast you're able to research things or develop? Does your brain react in a certain way that gives you some kind of advanced intelligence that maybe the people off in the field hunting horses don't really have? Is there some, I don't know. I'm asking for anybody who knows. I'm just saying random stuff. But if you have any input on that, let me know. So yeah, but listen, we've already kind of gone over all that kind of alien stuff and whatnot, but I do think it is worth a look to see if maybe there is something. I didn't actually touch on that in my research, but maybe there is something in the earth there. All around the world, we see these ancient civilizations that exhibit strange, advanced technologies or accomplish insane feats. Or have these unusual artistic styles, and they all seem to just vanish without a clear explanation. Not all of them, but many of them, such as the Maya, which I know the explanation for the Maya is that they all disappeared and dissipated by means of disease and familial breakings off and all that kind of stuff. I understand, but they still disappeared in a very strange place. There's the Indus Valley civilization, the builders of the Nazca lines in Peru. We have the Cahokia mounds in North America. We have the Anasazi. We have the serpent cults in Malta. All sorts of stuff. These people that just disappeared without a trace, right? They rose to these very impressive heights before declining or disappearing altogether. So could they, as in the example of Sanxingdui, have made contact with something that led to their undoing or led to them reaching some even greater height that we humans nowadays have no idea about? Because we gotta understand that these people, kind of like I've been saying for a little while now, they were not the same as us. They were much more in tune with their world than we are with ours. And locals to this day also still believe that the area around Sanxingdui holds some kind of unexplained energy. There's a feeling about it. And it's this energy that people say they can literally feel when they are in the area. And there's been reports of strange magnetic disturbances near the site as well. We're getting back to some of these geological features that might be causing something strange to happen. Visitors sometimes claim to feel disoriented, or their gear will stop working, or they'll be lightheaded as they're walking through the ruins. You know, there is the possibility of ancient technology, of course, there always is, but some conspiracy theorists might take it a little too far, but they do believe that hidden beneath the ruins of Sanxingdui, there could be evidence of some of that advanced tech. Maybe even alien or angelic artifacts that haven't been uncovered yet. And honestly, given the technological sophistication displayed in some of that bronze work and the layout of the city, is it too far-fetched to ask yourself if they did have some sort of tech that we just haven't discovered or don't know about, or was different than we know? There was a different kind of power that we know nothing about, and we wouldn't even recognize it if we see it. Was it something deliberately left behind? Is it something we can still find? We got to piece together all these modern sightings and ancient clues and stuff and try to make some kind of narrative for ourselves, you know? And honestly, it's impossible. You'll never know the real story. But the echoes of this lost civilization will continue to make ripples through time, of course, and they'll leave us to wonder forever if they were visited or what actually happened there. But what if the disappearance of the people of Sanxingdui is not rooted in the skies at all, but rather deep within the earth? What if this lost civilization wasn't visited by extraterrestrials, but actually found themselves in contact with something terrestrial and ancient in the earth? Or they weren't in contact with anything at all. They were just super advanced and they disappeared into the earth on their own means. Because it's possible. These things are within the realm of possibility and worth talking about. The people of Sanxingdui, they probably weren't abducted into outer space, right? I mean, I guess it really depends on how you believe in things. I personally don't believe that they were actually abducted into space. I think something else probably happened. Like they went into the earth. I could definitely see that happening. And that's not really a new concept. Throughout history, many cultures have spoken of these hidden worlds that are beneath the ground, and they are often home to these powerful entities or even entire civilizations. We see that with Admiral Byrd when he flew into a mountain in Antarctica, or maybe it was the North Pole, somebody remind me, and discovered an ancient race there that warned him of nuclear war and that kind of stuff. We also have countless stories from just almost every culture talking about finding some inner Earth civilization by going through a portal of one type or another. So we're seeing that, you know, this concept is found all over the place throughout time. There's even the Greek myth of Hades, and the Tibetan people have Shambhala. These worlds out there that just might exist. So maybe the people of Sanxingdui did discover such a realm. It's an interesting thought. I'd like to uncover such a realm. This one's not too fun right now, if you ask me. But I want to go back to those pits, those sacrificial pits at Sanxingdui. When the archaeologists uncovered these pits, they were filled with the relics, and many of them were deliberately broken or burned. And they were jade and bronze, and there was ivory, elephant tusks, all sorts of stuff. And they really did appear to be made into some sort of elaborate ritual, the way they were broken to pieces and whatnot. Some believe that these rituals might have been designed to appease something that was beneath the earth at this time. And if these sacrifices were made to the gods, as some suggest, or to some kind of subterranean power, it's possible that the people of Sanxingdui stumbled upon this vast network of tunnels or caves. It's worth noting that Sichuan province, where Sanxingdui is located, is home to one of the most complex and geologically active areas on the planet. The region is crisscrossed by fault lines, and there's tons of deep caves, some of which stretch for miles underground. So yeah, it's possible that the people of Sanxingdui have been connected to these subterranean worlds for generations, or at least were at some point in time. And the idea of this underworld is seen in many of their artifacts, where we see these intricate carvings of serpents, which are creatures who are often associated with the underworld in many ancient cultures. We just did the whole serpent cult thing and talked all about that. There's also those towering bronze trees that seem to symbolize connections to different realms. Trees have roots that run beneath the earth, and they're often represented in this art. So were these trees reaching for the heavens, but from the underworld? If so, like, what happened next, right? One version of the story suggests that the Sanxingdui people didn't just disappear, but they were led underground, either willingly or by force. And the rituals, the broken artifacts, all those sacrificial offerings, they could have all been part of an attempt to gain favor with these beings, perhaps in exchange for protection or knowledge. If there was some sort of underground race, I'm not saying there was, but if there was, and what if the rituals just worked too well and the people of Sanxingdui succeeded in opening this doorway to? It's not too hard to see how some people could believe that these underground realms might still exist, hidden deep beneath modern Sichuan, with traces of the lost civilization down there as well. There are stories all over the place of secret expeditions that have ventured into the region's caves only to return with even more strange artifacts, or to just not return at all. It's possible that the people of Sanxingdui simply moved their civilization beneath the surface, continuing their culture in isolation, protecting themselves from the surface world. Perhaps they've remained there ever since. Maybe they are still down there to this day. Maybe they went down there and discovered something horrible, and they accidentally got themselves exterminated by something else that lived in the earth. That idea is obviously tapping into a little bit more of a primal fear, the fear of what is in the earth, what is beneath the earth, all that kind of stuff. Monsters in the dark, underground caves, and stuff like that. But there were monsters in the earth back then. That's another thing that I think we forget. There were monsters back then roaming the earth. Depending on what you believe, you might even believe that there were still dragons alive in this time. These Asian cultures were deeply impacted by dragons, the idea of dragons, and had all of these ideas for what their dragons that were allegedly in their environment stood for and meant. When you saw them, when you experienced them, there's tales of dragons taking them, sometimes eating them, but sometimes giving them magical powers. There's really any number of explanations. And, you know, like I said before, you kind of have to go through all this information and do your own research and see what conclusion you come to on your own. The idea that maybe they just picked up their civilization and left, too, by the way, like they just took everything and went somewhere else, is not really that bizarre when you consider that despite how elaborate they were, how sophisticated their culture was, their ceremonial spaces were beautiful, and they had all this intricate bronze work, and they made these offerings to these ancient deities, all this stuff. You would think that this culture would have some kind of like distinguished funerary practice or something, right? Well, it turns out that all the graves were absent, and the bones that you might expect to be in the graves were missing. And that would lend me the idea that maybe they did take their dead. They took their ancestors, and they really did just peace out. Whether they went into the earth or they distributed themselves amongst the peoples that were in the rest of China, who knows? Perhaps they were led away en masse. Maybe there was some kind of coming doom that wasn't written about, that they knew about. Some kind of catastrophic event that was so complete that it literally obliterated not only their society, but also their very remains, such as Sodom and Gomorrah. There's not really any evidence of such an event. There's not even really evidence of volcanic eruptions or floods, but if something did sort of happen and there isn't any recorded history of it or any sign that it happened, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen, right? Maybe there was some kind of disaster. And like I said before, guys, we might never know. We probably never will know. This is probably so weird that even if we did find out, they wouldn't tell us the truth. So, for now, there's no definitive answers. Because there's no tombs. There's no bones to tell us the story of this advanced and creative people, or how they may have met their end. There's just no human remains whatsoever. None that we can really learn anything from. It makes this more than just an archaeological oddity. It's there's something else going on here. And I really think that we'll never know the truth. So whether these people were sacrificed or taken underground or abducted by some unknown forces or just vanished some other way, we're just going to have to paint the picture for ourselves. And we can examine some global events that happened during the time of Sanxingdui's disappearance to sort of give us some context of what else was going on in the world at this time, and potentially identify like maybe some parallel occurrences or something that could have impacted their civilization. We kind of think that the end of the Sanxingdui culture was around 1200 BC, and that kind of falls into this period known as the Late Bronze Age. So this area was marked by significant upheavals and transformations across the whole world. And some of the most notable catastrophes and anomalies I've got listed here. So this is going on over the span of basically 50 years, during which the Sanxingdui civilization could have met its end or exodus from its area. The Hittites, the Hittite Empire, was a major power in Anatolia, which is modern day Turkey. And they were beginning to experience a dramatic decline. The Hittite capital, Hattusa, was abandoned at this time, and the empire essentially fragmented into smaller states. And that was a significant empire. So if empires were crumbling at this time, it's possible that the people of Sanxingdui were, again, kind of seeing the writing on the walls. The Mycenaean civilization, I think I'm saying that right, Mycenaean civilization, they were known for their beautiful centers and advanced society, and they were falling into disarray at this time as well. Many of their sites were abandoned or destroyed during this 50-year period when Sanxingdui was going through whatever it was going through. And then in Crete, you have the Minoan civilization. They were also declining. It's a time of empires declining, we're seeing. And the reason for their collapse is debated, but it's often linked to broader disruptions of the Late Bronze Age collapse. And while Egypt was not completely overthrown at this time, the period was marked by severe instability and transition between the New Kingdom and the Third Intermediate Period, with diminished power and influence. The Late Bronze Age collapse was characterized by widespread destruction, shifting trade routes, and a general decline in the complexity of societies. So this global disruption could have had ripple effects that reached distant regions like Sanxingdui. It's also possible that climate change or earthquakes impacted Sanxingdui in some kind of way, causing them to make changes to how they lived life, even if that one of those changes was where they lived life. The so-called Sea Peoples, have you guys heard of the Sea Peoples? They were also believed to have been raiding around the eastern Mediterranean at this time, and their migrations and incursions disrupted established powers and trade networks, and they've got a ton of conspiracy theories revolving around them as well. There was also various tribal groups and people moving across regions, and that led to shifts in like political and social structures. And migration can influence any number of things. It can bring new people to a location, but it can also take people out. And that happens more frequently than you would think in some of these ancient cultures that have disappeared. We see fragments of them breaking off and leaving. We also see the rise of the Zhou dynasty around this time, and that kind of marks a transition away from the Shang dynasty. So China is changing at this time as well. Sanxingdui is not alone in this transitionary period in China even. So considering these global and regional events, any number of things could have impacted Sanxingdui in any number of ways, from trade disruption to climate stress or societal pressure or just the failing to support a civilization. Sometimes we do see places that just gradually decline because they can't support their own population and they break off and they disappear, or plagues break out, sickness happens, people die, and eventually just everybody goes and finds somewhere else to live because it was good while it lasted, but nothing lasts forever. So what do you guys think? Do you guys have any crazy knowledge on this that I didn't touch on here? I know it was kind of all over the place, but it's such a bizarre little mystery that I found, and I had to say something about it. So how do you think this connects to other civilizations that change around the world? Let me know what you think in the comments, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, and share. We need all the help we can get. I'm not joking. I got to keep this podcast, man, is really all I do. And I love to see you guys interacting. So stick with me. I promise there's good stuff to come. Remember, don't drink the water and question everything. Later.